If you want to get a high score on CELPIP writing, you're going to need to understand each and every part of the test. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what you need to do to get a great score. So how many tasks are there in CELPIP writing? Well, the CELPIP writing test has 2 tasks. In the first task, you'll write an email, and in the second, you'll respond to a survey-style question. In total, you'll have 60 minutes to complete both CELPIP writing tasks. But before we get to the first task, be sure to click that subscribe button for more great CELPIP videos. All right, writing task 1, writing an email. In this task, you'll write an email. First, you'll read a prompt with 3 to 4 bullet points about an everyday situation. Then you'll have to write an email addressing each of the bullet points. You'll have 27 minutes to plan, write, and revise your email. There is a timer, so you'll be able to see how much time is remaining. You should try to write at least 150 words, but up to 200 if you can. Be aware that if you write fewer than 135 words or more than 220 words, you could get a lower score. This is what writing task 1 looks like. The prompt on the left gives background information about the situation. This will be a situation from everyday life. In this case, you bought a pair of shoes that don't fit, and the shop clerk wouldn't let you return them. On the right, you'll see instructions of what you need to do. This part tells you who you are writing the email to, how many words to write, and bullet points of what information you need to include. In this case, you need to write to the shop manager about the problem and possible solution. Think about the purpose of your email. In this case, it's to make a complaint. Other purposes could include providing information, reporting an incident, giving a compliment, and so on. Make sure the information you include and the tone of your writing are appropriate for the purpose. In this case, your email should state what problem you have, explain what happened with the clerk, and describe how you want the problem resolved. Before you start writing, you should do the following. Take a minute to think through and plan your email. Think about the format and tone and what you will say for each bullet point. Think of a few ideas for each bullet point. What will you write for each point? Whatever you do, don't miss any dot points. Otherwise, you may lose marks. Now, let's take a look at how you'll be scored. The assessment of your writing will be scored out of a possible 12 points. Your writing will be evaluated in 4 different categories. First, coherence and meaning, which means assessing whether you have a clear message with a number of quality ideas and examples. 2, lexical range or vocabulary, which means seeing if you have a range of words and phrases that are suitable and accurate. 3, readability or comprehensibility, which is whether you have the correct format and paragraphing, accurate grammar structures, and use of connectors. And 4, task fulfillment, which means checking whether you addressed the task and gave a complete response. Here are some tips to help you do well in writing task 1. In writing task 1, you should always read the prompt carefully and try to understand the purpose of the email. Be sure to respond to all points in the prompt. There are usually 3. Remember, it's always best, where you can, to paraphrase the wording in the prompt using your own words. You can do this by using synonyms or other word forms. For example, instead of saying, "I recently bought a pair of shoes from a shoe shop," you could say, "On February 9th, I bought a pair of nice dress shoes at your shop in London, Ontario for $300. Don't be afraid to add extra details to make your email more authentic. You also need to make sure that your email has an appropriate format. For example, it should begin with a greeting such as "Dear Sir or Madam," and end with a closing such as "Yours faithfully" and a name. It should also be divided into separate paragraphs, one for each main point. Finally, remember to also use the appropriate tone, as some emails might be to a friend and then it would be more casual. If you're writing to a friend, you could begin with, "Hey Mike," but if, like in the example we looked at, you're writing to someone you don't know, such as a manager, it should be more formal. And remember, even in a letter of complaint, it's good to be polite. If you want CELPIP writing practice for writing task 1, including practice tasks and model answers, sign up for free at e2testprep.com. Link is in the description. Okay, let's take a look at CELPIP writing task 2, responding to a survey question. The second and final task of the writing test is task 2, responding to survey questions. In this task, you'll read a prompt about a topic that affects your community or workplace or school, and then you'll be asked to choose between two options in an opinion survey. Then you have to write a response stating and explaining your choice. But before we get to take a closer look at this task, be sure to click that subscribe button for more great CELPIP videos. So in writing task 2, you'll have about 26 minutes to write your formal response to a survey question. There is a timer, so you'll be able to see how much time is remaining. Try to write at least 150 words, but closer to 200 if you can. If you write fewer than 135 words, or more than 220 words, you could get a lower score. This is what writing task 2 looks like. The prompt on the left tells you the topic of the survey. In this case, it's a survey on what speaker to invite to visit a school and give a talk to the students. On the right, you can see the instructions for what you need to do, which is choose between two given options to respond to the survey, and explain the reason for your choice. Here, the two options are a man who's written a bird book and a woman who's lived in the area her whole life. Before you start writing, you have to decide which option you think is better. Try listing the pros and cons, or good and bad points of each, to help you decide and brainstorm ideas. Plan and think of reasons for your choice that you can back up with details and examples, then write an essay or letter, depending on the prompt and situation, to give your formal response to the survey question. In either format, you should have an introduction, two body paragraphs that show your two reasons with details and examples, and you should have a conclusion. In this question about inviting a guest speaker, you will have to be creative and think of reasons and examples. Like, let's say you choose Mrs. Jones, who is 94, because she has a great memory and tells interesting stories, and the students will enjoy meeting her and learning from her. Let's take a look at how you'll be scored. You'll be scored out of a possible 12 points. Your writing will be evaluated in 4 different categories. First is coherence and meaning, which is about whether you have a clear message with a number of quality ideas and examples. Second is lexical range or vocabulary, which assess if you have a range of words and phrases that are suitable and accurate. Third, there's readability or comprehensibility, which means seeing if you have the correct format and paragraphing, accurate grammar structures, and use of connectors. And finally, task fulfillment, which is to see how well you addressed the task and whether you gave a complete response. Bear all of these things in mind when you're writing so that you can get high marks in all areas. Let's quickly go over a few tips. In writing task 2, you want to structure the body of your response like an essay. You need to have a clear introduction of the topic with a general statement, then state which option you believe is better. Then go on to write 2 body paragraphs that each have a clear reason for your opinion with details and examples. You should then end with a conclusion. Another great tip is to try to use a variety of vocabulary and sentence structures. For example, you could use some less common words and some phrasal verbs. It's also a good idea to leave a minute at the end of your writing if you can, so you can check your work for errors. Don't worry too much about spelling, though. There is a spell checker in the CELPIP test that will help you make sure your spelling is correct as you go. All right, so that covers the 2 tasks of CELPIP writing. You're now ready to start preparing and getting feedback. Click the link in the description below to join E2's CELPIP preparation course at e2testprep.com. My name is Mark, and I'll see you soon.